let's talk about Rick and Morty. This is probably going to be the first of 3 videos on Rick and Morty. We're going to have this video that talks about the various characters and overarching story of Rick and Morty, and then a video talking about the episodes of Season 1, and a final video talking about the episodes of Season 2. The main characters of the show are, of course, Rick and Morty, as the title would suggest. But in addition to them, there's also the entire Smith family, and a few other characters, and most of them don't bear much mentioning, but we're going to go over the big ones here. First off, we have Rick Sanchez, who is the maternal grandfather of the Smith family, and he is a mad scientist, and at least started out as kind of a loose parody of Doc Brown from Back to the Future, though he's since kind of expanded past this. Through the series we see that he has some chemical dependency issues. I'm not sure we'd go so far as to call him a junkie, but he's a guy who likes to get high. He is voiced by Justin Roiland, who also voices many of the extra characters on the show, and also Morty, but we'll get to him in a minute. He apparently had at least one failed marriage. We're unclear if his wife was his only wife, and if she's alive or dead, and how that ended. It's kind of implied that he left her at some point, along with his daughter, but we don't really have anything concrete to suggest that. We know he's been out of his daughter's life for many years at this point, though. It seems he just kind of showed up at his daughter's house one day and started crashing there for free. Not sure if it actually had anything to do with some kind of family connection on his part, or if he just knew he could stay there for free. Neither would really surprise me. It is brought up throughout the series that he apparently, quote, doesn't see eye to eye with the galactic government, kind of nebulous government that's not really explained too much in the series. He also has been shown to be some kind of criminal and terrorist in the eyes of this organization. He doesn't seem to have any kind of overarching morality in his actions. He seems to do things usually for profit, though sometimes he seems to have other motivations. It's very difficult to pin down exactly what his views might be, aside from that everyone should watch out for number 1. And when he says number 1, he means himself. Next we have Morty, who is Rick's grandson. He's 14 years old and in high school. He's kind of unsure of himself. He usually comes from a position of a moral high ground without really understanding the situation or anything that's going on. But more than anything, he just kind of plays a sidekick to his grandfather, and apparently is like a living cloaking device for his grandfather in some fashion. He is well-meaning, and shown to be like most teenage boys, in that he's kind of clueless and very horny. And also wants to stay out of trouble, which is usually at odds with whatever he's doing with Rick at any given moment. He is generally portrayed as not being terribly bright, and sometimes this is taken advantage of by other characters, causing problems for Rick, but Rick seems to be fond enough of his grandson to give in to these occasional flights of fancy. Now, Rick and Morty are, of course, the main characters. The next important characters are the remaining members of the Smith family, the mother Beth, the father Jerry, and Morty's sister, Summer. Beth is Rick's daughter, voiced by Sarah Chalk. She is a horse surgeon, and seems generally dissatisfied with her life and husband, and usually pretty apathetic towards her children. She was apparently traumatized by her father leaving, and is very happy to have him back in her life, so much so that she's shown to give him a free pass on basically anything, because she is so worried about him just leaving again. She's been shown to have maybe a little bit of a drinking problem to cope with her less than satisfactory life. She basically had kids too early, didn't get to live her dreams, and passive-aggressively resents everyone around her. She is of course married to Jerry, voiced by Chris Parnell, and is basically the punching bag of this series. which is not a role alien to Chris Parnell, I guess. He apparently has a degree in civics and works at an advertising agency, although he seems to be basically unemployed most of the time, and this is often commented on by characters in the series. He is usually a lot like a Mark Wahlberg character in that he seems to be in a perpetual state of at least mild confusion. He's also shown to be, well, outright stupid, and he's aware that he is stupid and resents that Rick is around and is much smarter than him. He actually would like to send Rick off to a home, but Beth just won't let him, no matter how much Rick works to undermine Jerry's authority. It should be noted that while he is definitely the punching bag to every other character in this series, he also likes to play the victim. He kind of brings it upon himself. I guess he enjoys the attention, or is just too used to victimhood to do anything else. The last of the Smith family is Morty's older sister, Summer. She doesn't have much character, really. In the first season, she's basically used as a prop more than anything else. In the second season, she shows up, but a little more. But she's really just kind of a vapid teenager who's obsessed with popularity. She doesn't seem to have any kind of deep character traits. She just kind of likes to stir up drama. She's a stereotypically teenage girl. Voiced by Spencer Grammer. There are a few other characters worth mentioning, reoccurring characters, like Morty's math teacher, Mr. Goldenfold, voiced by Brandon Johnson. He is a black high school teacher who's middle-aged and doesn't really do much. He occasionally yells at Morty. About it. There's also Bird Person, voiced by Dan Harmon. He is one of the very few characters that will defend Rick at almost any point. He also often works kind of like a Silent Bob-like character in that he shows up to kind of shed light on a situation or give perspective. That's pretty much it for your important characters. There's of course a ton of other characters, but they don't really bear mentioning. And overall, this is a story about Rick and Morty and their relationship as grandfather and grandson, but also showing how this very cynical character and this very naive character can interact and see situations differently. It is a science fiction show, but it's a well-made science fiction show, and they don't so much worry about the science. They just kind of take ideas, and it's like, well, is it plausible that an advanced enough circumstance could create this? And if the answer is yes, they kind of do it, because there's really no attempt to explain any of the science in this this sci-fi. But we'll get into the story more deeply next time when we talk about Season 1. So, hope you enjoyed me talking about the characters at least.